Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into something really immediate and frankly quite urgent. It's the F1 student visa crisis that's hitting thousands of Indian students right now, students hoping to get to U.S. universities this fall. And this isn't just some small administrative hiccup, is it? It feels much bigger. It seems like a really complex issue, with effects spreading out, well, everywhere. We really need to unpack what's going on.
You're absolutely right. And the timing couldn't be more critical. The fall semester in the U.S. is, less than a fortnight remaining? Yet so many Indian students are just stuck, caught in this awful visa bottleneck. And many of them, they've done everything right. They've got the admission offers, really coveted ones sometimes. They've even paid tuition fees, sorted out housing, big financial commitments, only to find themselves completely stalled without that essential F1 visa. It's really upending everything for them. Academic plans, dreams, just thrown into
That
chaos.
sounds incredibly stressful.
It is. So our mission today in this deep dive is to really look at the scale of this. How big is this problem? And then try to dissect the causes, what's actually behind it. And crucially, understand the ripple effects. Because it's not just the students, right? It affects institutions, maybe even diplomatic ties.
The human side of it is just, it's heartbreaking to think about. But to really get a grip on how severe this is, we have to look at the data, the numbers, and honestly, what they show is pretty shocking.
Indeed. The figures we've been tracking paint a very concerning picture. We're seeing a really sharp decline in F1 visa approvals, something quite unprecedented in recent memory. So, for example, our data shows a staggering 41% drop year over year just for F1 visas issued to Indian students in May 2025.
41% in just 1 month.
Yes. To put that into perspective, that's a fall from about 11,800 visas in May 2024 down to roughly 7,000 this past May. A huge drop for that critical pre-departure window.
Wow, 41%. That's nearly half the students who'd normally be getting their visas sorted right before the semester. That is alarming.
And it's not just May. That trend, it continues if you look broader. Looking at the total issuance between March and May 2025, it fell by a pretty significant 27%. So that's down from around 13,478 visas last year to just 9,906 this year for that same 3-month period.
So the problem was building even before May.
Exactly. The trajectory is clearly going the wrong way. We also noted visa approvals were already down 12% between January and April, and then they plunged another 22% in May compared to 2024. So it's like a snowball effect. It's compounding, getting worse as we get closer to the start dates.
This isn't static then, it's actively deteriorating as the clock ticks down. If this trajectory keeps going, what are we looking at overall for Indian student arrivals this fall? Any projections?
Well, if these trends unfortunately hold, our projections suggest it could contribute to an overall maybe 70 to 80% drop in Indian student arrivals this fall.
70 to 80%.
Yes. Think about what that means. Potentially 8 out of every 10 students who expected to start their U.S. education journey might not make it.
A 70 to 80% drop. When we talk percentages like this, it's easy to forget these are real people, aren't they? Thousands of them. You just picture a student, worked incredibly hard, maybe the whole family sacrificed, got through tough exams, got into a great U.S. university, planned their whole future around it. Maybe they've taken out huge loans, already paid tuition, housing deposits. And now, literally weeks, maybe days before classes start, their dream just evaporates. It's completely derailed. The emotional toll, the financial strain, it must be immense. Their plans are just hanging there in limbo.
Absolutely. We're hearing so many stories, immense psychological stress, real financial anxiety. They've often put their life savings on the line or taken on significant debt. And now they're caught in this awful uncertainty. Will they even get to campus this semester? Maybe never. It's that human cost that sometimes gets lost behind the big numbers.
Which brings us to the big question everyone must be asking. Why? Why is this happening? What are the reasons consultants, and maybe more importantly, the students themselves, are pointing to? This is where it gets really interesting, I think.
Yeah, it's not just one thing. It seems to be a combination of factors creating, what some are calling a perfect storm. The number one issue, the one cited most often, is severe slot scarcity. Our observations show what looks like a freeze on visa appointment slots across U.S. consulates in India.
A freeze.
Yeah.
So they just stopped offering appointments.
Or drastically reduced them. Students report spending hours, days just refreshing the online portals, desperately hoping an appointment slot will pop up, but there's almost no guarantee of actually scheduling an interview. It's like trying to buy tickets for a massive concert that sold out instantly, but the website keeps crashing and no more tickets ever appear. Just constant frustration.
That sounds like torture. Digital torture with incredibly high stakes. Your whole future hangs on clicking refresh at the right second for a slot that might not even exist. The despair, I can only imagine.
Exactly. And then, layered on top of just getting a slot, there's also this challenge of heightened scrutiny and rising rejection rates, even for students who seem perfect on paper. Strong academic records, clear proof of funds, genuine study plans, they're still facing rejections. And that just compounds the delays, the anxiety.
So even if you win the lottery and get an appointment, you might still get rejected.
Yes. It adds another huge layer of uncertainty. Securing the interview is just step one. Then you face what seems like a tougher approval hurdle.
Is there a pattern to the rejections? Or does it feel random?
It's hard to say definitively random, but it certainly feels that way to many students. There seems to be perhaps an increased focus on ties to the home country, proving non-immigrant intent, which has always been part of the F1 process, but the level of scrutiny, the threshold for satisfying the consular officer seems to have gone up significantly, leading to more no's, even for seemingly straightforward cases.
Okay, so slot scarcity, higher rejection rates. What?
The third major piece seems to be what's often called embedded bureaucratic rigidity. Think of it as the system itself. Maybe it's old processes, maybe resource constraints, maybe shifting priorities. But the administrative machinery just seems unable to adapt or speed up, even with this surge in demand and urgency. It suggests the bureaucracy itself is slow, inflexible, and contributing to the bottleneck.
Like the system just wasn't built for this kind of pressure or hasn't been allowed to adapt.
Something like that. It makes it incredibly hard to expedite things even when everyone knows time is running out. It's a system right now that just isn't meeting the moment.
That paints a pretty bleak picture of a system under strain. But the impact, the fallout, it goes way beyond just the students caught in this, doesn't it? So what does this all mean? What are the wider consequences we should be thinking about?
You've hit on a really critical point there. The fallout is broad. It touches many stakeholders. U.S. universities, for one, are facing potentially huge tuition revenue losses. Indian students contribute billions to the U.S. economy every year. Tuition, yes, but also living costs, rent, spending in local communities.
Billions.
Billions. Our own projections suggest a possible $2.6 billion deficit for universities if these Indian student numbers don't bounce back fast. And it's not just the money, though that's obviously significant. It's also a reputational risk for these institutions.
How so?
Well, U.S. universities pride themselves on being global hubs. They invest heavily in recruiting international students, building global partnerships. This kind of crisis undermines that image. It makes the U.S. look potentially unreliable as an academic destination.
Yeah.
And think about the local economies, too. University towns rely on students, restaurants, shops, housing. They'll all feel the pinch if thousands of students don't arrive.
That's a massive financial hit, the $2.6 billion figure. And I see the reputational damage. Universities need international students for diversity too, right? For the different perspectives they bring to the classroom, to research. Losing such a big group, that hurts the educational mission itself. And it seems this has caught political attention now too.
Yes, absolutely. It's reached that level. International education experts are openly calling for legislative action. They see the broader diplomatic stakes. We know that a bipartisan group of 15 U.S. lawmakers sent a letter recently urging the administration to get a handle on the backlog, to fix the visa pipeline.
15 lawmakers. So it's
Yeah.
definitely on the radar in Washington.
It appears so. And there's growing pressure on specific influential figures, like Senator Marco Rubio mentioned in some reports, to really address what people are calling systemic failures. This isn't just seen as an administrative snag anymore. It's being framed as a diplomatic impasse, something that affects the crucial U.S.-India relationship.
It really does highlight how interconnected everything is. Global education, finance, diplomacy. It's not just about one student getting a visa stamp. It's about the health of U.S. higher education, America's image as a leader in education, and vital international partnerships. The stakes feel incredibly high for everyone involved.
And going back to the students, all this uncertainty just piles on that emotional and financial strain we talked about. They've put everything on the line: savings, loans, plans for tuition, for housing. And now we're just caught watching this larger situation unfold, with their own futures hanging completely in the balance.
So with the fall semester literally just around the corner hanging so precariously, What's the path forward? Where do we go from here? What actually needs to happen to resolve this? And what are the bigger implications if it doesn't get fixed quickly?
Well, resolution really hinges on one thing above all: urgent and decisive policy intervention. This needs swift action from the government level to basically unblock the system. We need significantly expanded visa capacity. That means opening up many more appointment slots across consulates in India, urgently.
Just more slots. Is that enough?
It's necessary, but probably not sufficient on its own. We also need more transparent and critically expedited processing. The whole system needs to be clearer for applicants. They need to know where they stand. And it needs to be much, much faster, especially for students who've already got their admission, paid their fees. They need predictability. Without that speed and clarity, trust just keeps eroding.
Okay, so a multi-pronged approach then. More appointments, a faster, clearer system, maybe addressing those rejection concerns too. Without that kind of action, what's really at stake here in the longer term for international education?
I think the future of the U.S.-India educational partnership itself is at stake, which is incredibly valuable, mutually beneficial, and beyond that, it's about broader trust. Trust in global academic mobility. Trust in the U.S. as a reliable destination. If students, not just from India but globally, start seeing the U.S. visa process as this unpredictable, overly difficult hurdle, it could have really profound, lasting effects on student flows, on academic collaborations, maybe even on where global talent chooses to go for years to come.
That's a sobering thought.
It raises a big question for all of us, really. What is the long-term impact if these kinds of crises persist? How does it reshape the landscape of international education? Could students start looking elsewhere more seriously if the U.S. pathway feels too uncertain? It really frames the urgency of finding a solution, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. What a point to consider as we watch this unfold. Okay, just to bring it all together quickly, let's recap the key takeaways from our deep dive today. We see this dramatic, almost unprecedented drop in F1 visa approvals for Indian students heading into fall 2025. That 41% decline in May alone is staggering. It seems fueled by a perfect storm, severe lack of visa appointment slots, much tougher scrutiny, and this kind of baked-in bureaucratic sluggishness.
Right, and the ripple effects are huge. U.S. universities are looking at billions in lost revenue, potential damage to their global reputation. And meanwhile, thousands of students are caught in this awful limbo, facing immense emotional and financial pressure.
And the way forward seems clear, though maybe difficult to implement quickly.
Yes. It really demands urgent policy changes, major expansion of visa processing capacity, and making the whole system faster and more transparent. How effectively this gets resolved really could shape U.S.-India educational ties and trust in global academic movement for a long time.
All the best, and we will meet again with another important matter again.